Question number 3, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he stand by his statement, quote, "I am deeply concerned about every child in New Zealand who is in poverty," end quote?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, yes.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Given that 21% of New Zealand children are currently living in material deprivation, by which date does the Prime Minister expect that that number will reduce to just 15%?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaking, I don't have any modelling to be able to answer the member's question.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Which of the 78 recommendations from the Expert Advisory Group on Child Poverty has his government implemented to date?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I don't have an exact timetable of how many we've implemented to date, but I know that we've adopted or broadly supportive of 2/3 of the 78.
Supplementary question. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. How can the public take the Prime Minister seriously and his comment that he's deeply concerned about every New Zealand child who's in poverty when he has no information as to how to measure that rate of poverty or a target for its reduction, and cannot name the specific recommendations that his government is implementing from the Solutions to Child Poverty produced by the Children Commissioner's Expert Advisory Group on Child Poverty?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the member will notice that the Ministerial Committee on Poverty issued its recommendations in relation to the Expert Advisory Group's report. In that, it summarises what the government's been doing. I think if the member is genuinely interested in what the government's actually doing to help vulnerable children, she will read that. I don't expect her to understand or at the tip of her fingers have every single thing the government's been doing, but let me just run through a few. I do have them, so let me just run through them. So given the member has asked, I will be more fulsome in my answer. So rheumatic fever, we put 21.3 million in over the last 4 years, and in budget 2013 we doubled that by another 24 million. In home installation, in budget 2013 alone, we put $100 million in over the next 3 years, and that'll be targeting low-income families in need. That'll add on to the 215,000 homes that we insulated at a cost of over $300 million. We are looking at a warrant of fitness for rental properties, and we're trialling it on Housing New Zealand properties, and the member will be aware that when it comes to Housing New Zealand, the government is not only building more state houses, but will add 3,000 additional bedrooms to prevent the issue or try and solve the issue or give relief to the issue of overcrowding. The government is targeting early childhood education for low-income families, and the member will be aware the government has a stated target of getting that to 98% for all New Zealand families, and is doing pretty well. Okay. We are going in terms of microfinancing, exploring the options for low or no interest loans through microfinancing. Member will be aware that's one of the issues actually that these families do face. Member will be aware that yesterday we announced our food...
That's quite a sufficient long answer.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Order. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Is the government implementing the Expert Advisory Group on Child Poverty's recommendation that it set targets to reduce child poverty, covering both the short term and the longer term, to be reviewed at least every 3 years? And if not, why not?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I don't think it's the government's view that we should set a target. I think what the government's view is that we should address the issue of poverty through a series of measures. And that includes, amongst other things, in trying to ensure that as many New Zealanders who want jobs can get jobs, because one of the biggest issues that comes through on this issue is that if a family is on a benefit, then it's highly likely that those children will be in deprivation that the member talks about, because we know about 60% of those vulnerable children are in deprivation. Are on benefit-based households. It is on that basis then, well, it is on that basis worth mentioning these two facts. If we were to look at working for families and the way that that works in relation to people on a benefit, for someone that was a sole parent with 3 children not working, they would get $517 a week from the benefit and from working for families. In addition to that, they would get an accommodation supplement of up to $225 a week, so it could be expected that their weekly income would be $742 a week from the government, or $38,584. Equally, it's worth looking if that family was a very low-income family, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order. Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr. Speaker, surely the Prime Minister is just dragging on the answer to this question. All it needs is a succinct statement of a number of facts, not a long, tedious answer that would put Mogonon out of business.
I think, speaking to the point of order, the Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, very often we come to the House and the honourable member gets on his feet to tell the House that the members have not...
Order. I'm hearing a point of order.
The ministers have not been addressing the question fully or providing the facts and information. In no way have I attempted in answering the member's question to be facetious or smart or in any way political. I'm simply giving her the facts of what's been going on with the government.
Order. I'm ruling on the first point made by the Right Honourable Winston Peters, and I think on this occasion, in response to a supplementary question, the answer was quite sufficiently long enough. On that basis, are there further... The question was accepted as reasonable, and I'm now accepting a further supplementary from Metiria Turei.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Is the government implementing the recommendation of the Expert Advisory Group on Child Poverty to review all child-related benefits and to implement a universal child payment, and if not, why not?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, no, the government won't be adopting that recommendation. Government doesn't believe that is either currently affordable or the right approach.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is the government implementing the Expert Advisory Group on Child Poverty's recommendation that the remaining 700,000 uninsulated or poorly insulated homes are properly insulated, given that he plans to insulate less than 10% of that number over the next 3 years? And if he doesn't intend to insulate the full number, why not?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if this government is in office for a very long period of time, it's eminently possible we will actually get to the point where we insulate every home. If you look on the basis that we've been operating under, we insulated 215,000 the first 3 years. We've indicated we'll be insulating another 46,000 for very low-income New Zealanders through this budget. We've also indicated we'll be insulating every state house that can actually be insulated. So that's a very impressive record. I say to the member, she should look at the partners that she's cuddling up to, because that's the only way she'll get warmth, because they didn't insulate any home when they were in office.
Order. Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister agree with the Ministry of Health that incomes are so inadequate that nearly a quarter of Kiwi families run out of money for food? And is it his view that dropping off milk and Weet-Bix at the school gate is a sufficient solution to income inadequacy?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no, I don't think that breakfast for children across New Zealand is the sole answer to income issues. I do think, though, it's a comprehensive response in so much that every single New Zealand child will be offered breakfast in school. But let me make this point about income adequacy and what the government is doing in very difficult times. Let's take someone that is a full-time worker with a family of 3 children, one full-time earner. That person earns the minimum wage, $13.75 an hour. The member would argue strongly that's not enough. We'd all agree that it would be great over time to see the minimum wage go up. That person would earn $28,600 from their wages. Actually, they would pay about $4,000 in tax, leaving them a net $24,024. We would all agree that's not nearly enough. This government, through Working for Families, then supports them with $282 a week. It continues to support them with an income-related accommodation supplement of $225 a week. So, Mr. Speaker, what is the net effect? The net effect is that someone earning $28,600 a year gross before even tax takes home over $46,000. That is a system that provides a lot of support relative to the OECD for low-income families.
Point of order, Grant Robertson.
To the member, the Prime Minister appeared to be quoting from an official document, and therefore I ask that he table that document.
Is the Prime Minister quoting from an official document? And the Prime Minister says he's not quoting from an official document.
Speaking of Board of Orders, this is my briefing notes, but I'm more than happy to give the member the documents about not the whole document. I'm more than happy to give them a bit about how they earn $46,000. You obviously don't know.
Order. It's not an official document. If the Prime Minister wants to table, he can seek leave to table. Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr.
Supplementary
Speaker.
question.
If the Prime Minister is so deeply concerned about the children in New Zealand who live in poverty, why has his government been prepared to give to Wanganui Collegiate Elite School $3 million a year, but will not even budget $2 million a year to feed the thousands of New Zealand children who go to school hungry?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Firstly, the government yesterday rolled out a comprehensive solution. Every New Zealand child that wants breakfast by 2014 in a New Zealand school that accepts the program will have that breakfast. Just because a program is very efficient to run with the private sector, run with the generosity of communities, doesn't mean that it's not a good program. If the judge is just spending the most amount of money, which seems to be the way the Greens do things, then of course it's not a winner. But if it comes to actually maximising taxpayers' return for very good results for young New Zealand children, actually then it's a very good program.
Question number 4, Jacinda Ardern.
Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he